The night is quiet now. Far above the sleeping earth, the stars hang softly over the land of ancient Egypt. The river moves in silence through the darkness, slow and patient beneath the pale moonlight. Somewhere near the edge of the water, reeds bend gently in a warm breeze. Small waves touch the muddy banks with almost no sound at all. In the distance, a dog barks once and then becomes quiet again. Most of the world is asleep. Inside homes made from sun-dried mud brick, families rest beneath woven mats and thin blankets. The heat of the day still lingers inside the walls, though the night has cooled a little. Clay jars filled with river water stand in shadowed corners. Sandals sit near doorways. Oil lamps have burned low. And for a little while, the heavy work of life has finally paused. Tonight, we travel gently into this distant world. Not into the lives of kings or grand temples at first, but into the quieter corners of ancient Egypt. Into ordinary homes. Dusty paths, slow mornings beside the Nile. Into the long days of farmers, builders, fishermen, servants, and scribes. Because most people in ancient Egypt lived simple lives. Hard lives, often. Lives shaped by sunlight and river water. Lives filled with routine. And if you listen carefully, if you move slowly through the quiet rhythm of their days, something peaceful begins to appear beneath the heat and labor. A softness hidden inside repetition. The comfort of familiar work. The feeling of knowing exactly what tomorrow will bring. The Nile River sleeps beside them tonight. By morning, it will awaken again. Long before the sun rises, before the sky turns gold, the first sounds of movement begin. The darkness is still thick when someone stirs awake inside a small house near the riverbank. A mother shifts quietly from her sleeping mat. The floor beneath her feet feels cool for now, though soon the heat will return. She steps carefully so she does not wake the youngest child sleeping beside the wall. Outside, somewhere in the village, another family is already awake. She hears soft voices drifting through still air. A wooden door opens. Footsteps on packed earth. A quiet cough. The beginning of another ordinary day. The home is small. Most homes in ancient Egypt are. Mud brick walls hold the coolness of night for a little while longer. The roof above may be made from palm branches and mud. Sometimes people sleep on the roof itself during hotter months, where evening winds move more freely beneath open skies. There is little furniture. A few baskets. Clay jars. Simple stools. Woven mats rolled in corners. Everything has its place. Life here does not leave much room for extra things. The woman kneels near a small hearth. Ashes from yesterday remain cold. Soon she will grind grain for bread, as she has done almost every day of her life. Her hands know this work without thinking. Stone against grain. Push and turn. Push and turn. Slowly, flour gathers. The sound is steady. Soft. Almost comforting. Nearby, another woman in another home does the same thing. And another. And another. Across villages beside the Nile, morning begins not with noise or hurry, but with repetition. Daily rhythms, old as memory. Outside, the eastern sky slowly softens. Dark blue becomes pale gray. Then silver. Then faint gold. A farmer wakes. His body feels heavy. He slept only a few hours before waking again. Years of labor sit quietly inside his muscles. His shoulders ache in familiar places. His knees feel stiff when he rises. But there is work waiting. There is always work waiting. He steps outside and feels the soft coolness of earth beneath worn sandals. For a moment, before the heat arrives, the air feels kind. He looks toward the Nile. The river is everything. Without it, there is no life here. No fields. No bread. No villages. No Egypt. Each year the Nile floods its banks, spreading dark rich soil across the land. When waters retreat, farmers begin planting crops into soft earth left behind. Wheat, barley, vegetables, beans, figs, dates. Everything depends on timing. Everything depends on water. The farmer joins others walking slowly toward the fields. No one speaks much yet. Morning still feels quiet. The sun has not fully risen. Only sandals brushing dirt. Soft breathing. Birds beginning their songs near reeds. Insects waking. Some carry simple tools over their shoulders. Wooden hose polished smooth through years of use. Rope baskets. Water jars. No one expects comfort from the day ahead. Heat will come. Sweat will come. Exhaustion will come. But morning still belongs to calm. For now, shadows remain long across the earth. Nearby, fishermen prepare their boats. The Nile at dawn is peaceful in a way difficult to describe. Mist sometimes rests above the water like a thin blanket. Small wooden boats drift gently against reeds. Nets lie folded in careful bundles. A fisherman kneels to check knots tied the evening before. Strong enough. Good enough. Beside him, his son rubs sleep from tired eyes. The boy is young, but already learning how to read water, how fish move, how currents shift, how patience matters. Fishing is slow work. Sometimes lucky. Sometimes disappointing. The river gives, but not always generously. Still, many families depend on fish for food. So boats push quietly away from shore. Wood creaks softly. Water ripples outward. Morning stretches wider. Back in the village, bread baking begins. The smell slowly fills narrow pathways between homes. Warm grain. Smoke. Earth. Women shape dough carefully before placing loaves into clay ovens. Children begin waking, blinking against early light. Some rub tired faces. Others stretch quietly. A few complain softly about chores waiting outside. But life moves quickly here. Even children work. A young girl helps carry water jars. A boy gathers kindling. Someone sweeps dust from the doorway. Someone feeds goats. No task feels extraordinary. Everything simply belongs to the day. And perhaps this is what ancient life feels most like. Not dramatic. Not grand. Just steady. One small task following another. The sun rises higher now. Already warmth spreads across stone and earth. Fields begin filling with movement. Farmers bend low beneath growing heat. Hands press seeds into soil. Water channels are cleared. Mud sticks between toes. Sweat forms quickly. The work is slow and repetitive. Sometimes people sing quietly while working. Simple songs. Soft rhythms. Something to keep bodies moving through long hours. Sometimes there is conversation. A neighbor speaks about crops. Someone worries about water levels. Someone laughs gently about a stubborn donkey. Mostly, though, work continues in silence. The sounds of labor replace words. Shovels pressing dirt. Water splashing through channels. Wind moving softly through tall reeds. Farther away, near larger towns, another kind of work begins. Builders gather. Stone workers. Brick makers. Laborers carrying materials beneath growing sunlight. Ancient Egypt built many great things, though much of the work belonged not to kings but to ordinary hands. Strong backs. Calloused fingers. Tired feet. A laborer lifts heavy stone. Another smooths rough surfaces. Dust rises into warm air. The work can feel endless. But even here, there are pauses. A drink of water beneath shade. A moment sitting quietly against stone. A piece of bread eaten slowly. Someone rubbing sore muscles. Someone staring into sunlight without speaking. The day stretches long. And always, the heat grows stronger. By midday, Egypt changes. The gentle coolness of morning disappears. The earth becomes hot beneath sandals. Air grows heavy. Workers wipe sweat from faces already covered in dust. Animals search for shade. Dogs sleep beside walls. Even birds seem quieter. For farmers, midday brings exhaustion. Bodies bend slower now. Hands move more carefully. Many pause briefly beneath trees or woven shelters. Simple meals appear. Bread, onions, dried fish, dates. Beer made from grain, thick and filling rather than strong. Nothing fancy. Just enough to continue. People eat slowly. Talking little. Saving energy. The sun above feels enormous. Merciless sometimes. And yet, strangely, life continues. Because this heat is familiar. People grow up inside it. Learn to move with it. Accept it. Even respect it. In homes, older family members rest indoors where walls remain cooler. Grandparents tell quiet stories to children too young for harder labor. Stories of river spirits. Stories of animals. Stories carried gently across generations. Outside, merchants begin moving through roads. Donkeys carry goods tied carefully in baskets. Clay pots. Linen cloth. Vegetables. Fish. Tools. A merchant wipes sweat from his brow as he walks toward market. Trade matters deeply here. Even small villages exchange goods constantly. No family creates everything alone. Someone bakes bread. Someone catches fish. Someone makes sandals. Someone repairs broken pottery. Lives connect quietly together. A fisherman trades fish for grain. A potter exchanges bowls for vegetables. A farmer buys rope. Everyone depends on someone else. And so marketplaces hum softly with movement. Not loud. Not chaotic. Just alive. Voices rise and fall beneath shade cloths stretched above stalls. Someone bargains gently. Someone laughs. Someone sighs in tiredness. Children weave carefully through adults. Dust floats lazily through sunlight. The smell of warm bread mixes with smoke and river air. Nearby, a scribe sits cross-legged with tools spread neatly beside him. Most people in Egypt cannot read or write. But scribes can. And because of this, they are important. A scribe records taxes. Land measurements. Trade records. Messages. Lists of supplies. His work is quieter than farming. Cleaner, perhaps. Yet still demanding. Long hours bent forward. Careful handwriting. Constant attention. Ink stains fingers. Papyrus rustles softly. Mistakes matter. A tired mind must remain sharp. The scribe squints slightly beneath bright light. Even his work carries fatigue. Nothing here escapes effort. The afternoon moves slowly. Very slowly. Heat settles over villages like a heavy blanket. Sometimes workers pause simply because bodies cannot continue without rest. Someone leans against mud brick walls. Someone sits near the river. Someone splashes cool water over face and neck. Children grow quieter. Animals rest. For a little while, Egypt feels sleepy. Then slowly, almost without notice, afternoon begins leaning toward evening. The light changes. Heat softens. Wind returns. People rise again. Farmers finish tasks. Fishermen guide boats back toward shore. Builders carry tools home. Merchants pack baskets. A long day begins folding inward. And something peaceful enters the air. Smoke rises from cooking fires. The smell of bread returns. Stews begin simmering in clay pots. Garlic. Beans. Herbs. Warm grain. Families gather again. Tired. Dust-covered. Quiet. But together. A father washes dirt from hands. A child talks softly about the day. Someone laughs. Someone yawns. Someone stares silently into evening light. The sky turns gold. Then amber. Then soft violet. The Nile reflects everything. Birds drift low above water. Palm trees stand dark against fading light. And for a little while, work disappears. Only rest remains. Night comes slowly in ancient Egypt. No electric light. No noise of machines. Only lamps flickering softly inside homes. Only stars returning overhead. People sleep early because mornings arrive quickly. Mats are unrolled again. Bodies settle into familiar places. The air cools. Quiet spreads. A mother checks sleeping children. A fisherman stretches aching shoulders. A farmer closes tired eyes. Outside, insects hum softly near reeds. The Nile continues flowing through darkness. Always moving. Always patient. And tomorrow, before dawn arrives, everything will begin again. The grinding of grain. The baking of bread. The long walk to fields. The heavy labor beneath sun. The quiet evening beside cooking fires. Day after day. Season after season. Not glamorous. Not easy. Yet somehow steady. A life shaped by repetition carries its own strange kind of comfort. And as the stars drift quietly above ancient Egypt, another warm breeze moves softly across the riverbanks. The night deepens. The village sleeps. Somewhere far away, water touches shore in gentle rhythm. And in the darkness before morning, the old world rests for a little while longer. The night remains soft over the Nile. Most homes are quiet now. The cooking fires have faded into warm ashes. Oil lamps flicker weakly in corners before finally giving into darkness. Beyond the village walls, fields lie still beneath starlight, waiting for the return of footsteps. The river continues its slow movement. Always moving. Always listening. Along the banks, reeds whisper gently when warm wind passes through them. Somewhere in the dark, frogs call to one another from shallow water. A boat tied loosely to a wooden post taps quietly against the shore. The sound is small. Easy to miss. Yet in a sleeping village, even little sounds feel large. Inside one mud brick home, a farmer turns in sleep. The day remains inside his body. Heavy shoulders. Sore hands. A dull ache in his legs from hours standing beneath sunlight. Work leaves traces. Even after darkness comes, the body remembers. He sleeps beside his wife and children on woven mats spread across the floor. Near the doorway sits a basket of grain for tomorrow. Clay jars line the wall. A simple wooden stool stands near the hearth where bread was baked earlier in the evening. Nothing fancy. Nothing wasted. Almost everything in the room serves a purpose. Life in ancient Egypt rarely leaves space for objects without use. Outside, moonlight rests softly across rooftops. Some families sleep on flat roofs during warmer months, hoping to catch whatever cool air the night might offer. Thin blankets cover resting bodies. A child shifts in sleep. An older man coughs quietly once before settling again. Above them, the sky feels endless. No city lights. No distant glow. Only stars stretching across darkness. The people of ancient Egypt know these stars well. Night after night, season after season, they look upward and see familiar shapes. The sky feels alive to them. Steady. Reliable. Much like the river itself. Hours pass quietly. Then somewhere in the distance, before first light, movement begins again. It starts with one person. A woman waking before everyone else. Her eyes open into darkness she already understands. She does not need sunlight to know what must be done. Her hands know the rhythm of morning before morning even arrives. She rises carefully. The house feels cool. For now. Soon warmth will return. She kneels near the grinding stone and begins working grain into flour. The sound arrives softly in the silence. Stone moving against stone. Steady. Patient. Almost like breathing. This sound belongs to Egypt. Across villages beside the Nile, many women wake this way. Before dawn. Before heat. Before the first birds. Work begins quietly. No one complains. There is simply too much to do. Bread must be prepared. Water carried. Children fed. The day waits for no one. Outside, darkness slowly loosens its hold on the land. The eastern horizon grows pale. Shadows soften. Somewhere nearby, a rooster calls. Then another. A donkey shifts lazily near a fence. Village paths begin filling with small sounds of waking life. Doors opening. Low voices. Footsteps pressing into dusty earth. A fisherman rises from sleep and steps outside into cool air. He pauses for a moment. This hour feels precious. The only time of day when the heat has not yet arrived. He breathes deeply. The smell of river water mixes with damp earth and distant smoke from morning fires. Nearby, his son still sleeps. Not for long. Soon the boy will learn that mornings belong to work. But today, for another few moments, he rests. The fisherman kneels near carefully folded nets. Fishing requires patience. And care. Broken nets mean empty days. His fingers move slowly over rope, checking weak places, tightening knots. The river can be generous. But only to those prepared. Soon another fisherman joins him. Neither says much. Morning words feel unnecessary. Together they push their narrow wooden boat into shallow water. The Nile accepts them quietly. The surface glows faintly beneath growing light. Birds skim low over the river. A fish jumps somewhere nearby, leaving circles that widen slowly before disappearing. The world feels calm. Almost sleepy still. Further inland, farmers gather again for another day. The same fields. The same labor. The same endless relationship with water and soil. Some years are kind. Others harder. Floods may come too weak. Or too strong. Crops may grow well. Or fail. Every farmer understands uncertainty. Yet they continue. Because life asks them to. A man carries a wooden hoe over his shoulder as he walks beside neighbors toward fields already touched by soft gold light. Dust rises around sandals. Someone yawns. Someone rubs tired eyes. A younger worker jokes quietly about how quickly the morning disappears once labor begins. An older farmer smiles faintly but says little. He has walked this same road for many years. Perhaps too many to count. He knows what the day will feel like. Cool morning. Heavy heat. Slow exhaustion. Then evening relief. Again and again. Routine settles around life here like river water settling into familiar curves. At the edge of the village, women gather beside wells and riverbanks carrying clay jars. Water is heavy. Heavier than many children first expect. Balancing jars requires strength learned over time. One woman steadies a large vessel against her shoulder. Another laughs softly at something whispered nearby. Even hard work leaves space for small moments. Conversations drift gently. Family worries. Food shortages. A child with fever. Plans for market day. Quiet stories carried through ordinary mornings. Nearby, younger children play for a little while before chores begin. A small game in dust. Sticks becoming toys. Laughter rising briefly before responsibilities return. Even childhood here holds work waiting nearby. Soon enough, many children begin helping families. Feeding animals. Gathering reeds. Watching younger brothers and sisters. Carrying small baskets. Learning useful skills long before adulthood arrives. Life moves early. And quickly. As sunlight rises higher, village workshops begin waking too. Ancient Egypt depended on skilled hands. Potters. Carpenters. Weavers. Stone workers. Leather makers. Each workshop carries its own sounds. Inside a pottery space, clay turns slowly beneath practiced fingers. The potter sits low to the ground. Hands wet. Movements calm and careful. A bowl slowly takes shape. Then a jar. Then another. Everything needed patience. Storage jars for grain. Water containers. Cooking vessels. Without pottery, daily life becomes harder. So the work continues. Quietly. Steadily. Nearby, weavers sit before wooden looms. Linen cloth matters deeply in Egypt. Clothing. Household use. Simple coverings for warmth at night. The work takes time. Threads crossing slowly. Hands moving with practiced rhythm. Wood creaks softly. Dust floats through morning light. No one rushes. There is no reason to rush. Most tasks here unfold according to natural pace. Too much hurry often means mistakes. And mistakes cost time. The carpenter's workshop smells of wood shavings and warm air. He shapes stools, boxes, doors, farming tools. His hands show years of labor. Small scars. Rough skin. Strong fingers. Tools are simple. But skill matters more than tools. Outside, heat slowly grows. The kind of heat that settles over shoulders and refuses to leave. Morning coolness fades. By midday, shade becomes precious. A worker pauses beneath a palm tree. Another drinks water slowly from a clay cup. Someone wipes sweat from forehead with tired hands. Bodies move slower now. The sun hangs overhead like something impossibly large. Bright. Heavy. Unavoidable. In fields, farmers bend low over crops. Canals must stay clear. Water must move properly. The Nile gives life, but people must guide that life carefully into fields. A blocked channel can damage precious crops. So workers dig mud. Carry water. Repair small walls. Hands sink into wet earth. Feet become coated with soft river mud. Sweat mixes with dust. The smell of damp soil rises into hot air. Sometimes the work feels endless. Yet somehow, the hours pass. Little by little. Step by step. Across the river, fishermen pull nets slowly through water. Not every morning brings success. Sometimes only a few fish. Sometimes enough to trade. Sometimes almost nothing at all. Still, patience remains part of the work. One fisherman watches ripples quietly. The sun reflects brightly now, making him narrow tired eyes. He shifts position inside the boat. His back aches. His stomach feels ready for food. But work comes first. Always work first. In wealthier households, servants move quietly through shaded courtyards. Not everyone in Egypt works fields. Some serve noble families or temple households. Sweeping floors. Preparing meals. Carrying water. Washing clothes. Serving guests. Even here, labor begins before sunrise and often ends after dark. A young servant girl kneels near washing basins. Hands soaked. Back aching already. Nearby, someone prepares bread. Someone grinds grain. Someone cleans floors cooled by shade. Servants know exhaustion too. Though often hidden behind silence. Still, life moves gently even in harder places. Birdsong drifts through open spaces. Palm leaves sway overhead. Somewhere nearby, incense burns softly. The smell lingers in warm air. Afternoon arrives again. Heavy. Slow. The kind of heat that makes everyone quieter. Markets become calmer. Animals rest. Workers pause where they can. Even the wind seems tired. A laborer sits against mud brick wall holding simple lunch. Bread. A few dates. Onions. He eats slowly, watching dust drift across the road. For a moment, there is no task. No lifting. No digging. Just stillness. Small moments of stillness matter deeply here. Because life offers few chances to rest. In shaded spaces, older people sit together and talk softly. They speak of river levels. Old harvests. Children growing too quickly. Neighbors no longer living. Memories move slowly in afternoon air. A grandmother tells a story to restless children. Her voice low and calm. The same story perhaps told many times before. Still the children listen. Stories feel comforting. Especially familiar ones. As sunlight begins lowering, something changes. The worst heat loosens. Shadows stretch longer. Breathing becomes easier. The earth cools little by little. Workers feel it immediately. Bodies straighten. Energy slowly returns. Boats drift back toward shore. Farmers gather tools. Merchants close baskets. The village begins turning inward once more. Toward home. Toward food. Toward rest. Cooking fires appear again. Thin smoke rising softly against evening sky. The smell arrives first. Fresh bread. Stews. Fish roasting slowly. Warm herbs. Simple meals. Yet after long labor, simple food feels enough. Children return dusty and tired. Parents sit nearby after washing hands and faces. Conversations remain quiet. No one has much energy left for loud voices. A child leans against a parent. Someone yawns before food even arrives. Someone laughs softly over a small mistake from earlier in the day. Evening carries kindness. Because work is finished. For now. The Nile glows beneath fading light. Orange becomes gold. Gold becomes soft blue. Then darkness slowly returns. People gather near doorways. Some talk quietly with neighbors. Some simply sit, watching evening settle over fields. A fisherman repairs torn net beneath fading light. A mother folds cloth. An old man watches stars slowly appear. Nobody hurries. The night comes as it always does. Patiently. Slowly. Oil lamps flicker awake inside homes. Crickets begin their songs. The warmth of day lingers inside walls. Soon families prepare for sleep again. Mats spread across floors. Blankets arranged carefully. Children drifting into dreams before adults even finish speaking. Tomorrow waits nearby. Everyone knows this. The fields will still need tending. Bread will still need baking. Water still carried. Fish still caught. Nothing changes quickly here. Life moves in circles. River seasons. Morning labor. Evening rest. Again and again. Outside, beneath quiet stars, the Nile continues its endless journey through darkness. Soft water against shore. Wind through reeds. The sound of a sleeping world breathing gently beneath the ancient sky. The stars remain above the Nile for a little while longer. Night feels deep now. The kind of darkness that settles gently over rooftops and sleeping fields, where even the dust seems to rest. The village has grown still again. Cooking fires are quiet. Clay ovens sit warm from the evening's bread. Animals sleep in corners of small courtyards, breathing softly beneath the night air. Somewhere far away, a dog barks once. Then silence returns. The Nile keeps moving through darkness as it always has. Slow. Steady. Patient. Its water slips quietly past villages and fields, past sleeping fishermen and silent docks, past reeds bending softly in warm wind. Even when people sleep, the river does not. It continues onward beneath moonlight. A silent companion to every life here. Inside a small mud brick home near the edge of the village, an elderly man wakes for a moment. Age has made sleep lighter. He shifts carefully on his woven mat, listening to familiar sounds around him. The quiet breathing of grandchildren nearby. The soft rustle of wind outside. Somewhere close, a clay jar creaks gently as night air cools its surface. He closes his eyes again. Tomorrow will arrive soon enough. Morning always arrives sooner than expected. And slowly, very slowly, darkness begins to soften at the edges. The eastern sky changes first. A faint silver line appears far beyond the river. Then pale blue. Then the softest hint of gold. Egypt wakes carefully. Quietly. Without hurry. Before sunlight fully arrives, the village begins breathing again. A woman steps outside carrying an empty jar. The air feels cool against her skin. This hour feels precious. For only a short time each day, before heat returns, the world feels gentle. She walks toward the river with practiced steps. The path beneath her sandals feels smooth from years of use. Others appear nearby, also carrying jars balanced against hips or shoulders. Morning greetings are soft. Almost whispers. Nobody wastes energy too early. The river waits quietly beside them. Its surface smooth and dark beneath fading stars. The woman kneels carefully at the bank and dips her jar into cool water. The sound is small. Water moving against clay. Nearby, another woman washes cloth against smooth stones. Slow movements. Steady rhythm. Life begins with water here. Everything does. Cooking. Cleaning. Farming. Drinking. Without the river, none of this exists. No bread. No fields. No homes. The Nile shapes every hour of life. As the sky brightens, the first smells of breakfast drip through village paths. Fresh grain. Warm smoke. Baking bread. Inside homes, hands already move through familiar routines. Grinding flour. Mixing dough. Preparing simple meals before the hardest work begins. A mother tears bread into smaller pieces for sleepy children. One rubs tired eyes. Another leans heavily against the wall, not fully awake. The youngest still sleeps curled beneath a blanket. No one rushes the morning too much. Even hard-working lives need slow beginnings. Outside, donkeys shift lazily near fences. Goats call softly. Chickens scratch dust near doorways. The village feels alive again. Not loud. Just gently busy. Near the edge of the settlement, farmers gather before heading toward fields. Some carry wooden tools worn smooth through years of use. Others bring baskets or rope. A few walk silently, still waking fully. The path feels familiar beneath their feet. They know every bend. Every stone. Every patch of dry earth. Some have walked this same road since childhood. The younger workers move faster. The older ones take slower steps. Bodies stiff from many seasons of labor. Still, they continue. Because fields wait for no one. As sunlight spreads across the land, the beauty of Egypt quietly appears. Palm trees standing still against golden sky. Birds gliding above water. Reeds swaying beside riverbanks. Mist lifting slowly from low ground. For a few moments each morning, before the full heat arrives, everything feels peaceful. Almost dreamlike. A fisherman standing in his boat watches the changing sky. His hands rest briefly on folded nets. The water reflects morning light in soft silver shapes. He listens. To birds. To rippling water. To the quiet creak of wood beneath his feet. Fishing requires patience, but patience feels easier during these early hours. The river feels generous in morning silence. Nearby, his young son watches carefully. Learning. Always learning. When to cast a net. How to move without frightening fish. How to understand water without words. The boy asks few questions now. Mostly he observes. This is how many skills are learned here. By watching. Repeating. Practicing. Slowly becoming useful. In another part of the village, a young servant girl wakes before sunrise inside a wealthier household. Her day begins early. Earlier than most. She sweeps cool stone floors while lamps still flicker weakly against walls. Courtyards remain quiet. Wealthier homes may be larger, shaded by trees and lined with painted walls, but work still fills every hour. She moves carefully. Quietly. Trying not to disturb sleeping family members. Soon she will carry water. Help prepare food. Wash dishes. Clean rooms. Endless small tasks. Not difficult one by one. But together, exhausting. The smell of fresh bread drifts through the household. Someone else has already begun preparing breakfast. Someone else grinds grain. Someone lights cooking fires. No home runs without many hands. In workshops, craftsmen begin arriving too. The potter presses hands into damp clay before sunlight grows too strong. His workshop already feels warm. Clay cool beneath fingers. Wheel turning slowly. Shape emerging little by little. Nothing rushed. A water jar takes time. A bowl takes patience. A storage vessel must be strong enough to survive years of use. Hands matter more than speed. Nearby, a carpenter sharpens tools beneath soft morning light. Wood dust settles quietly across the floor. He plans repairs for a neighbor's broken stool. Later he may shape a door or tool handle. Simple objects. Yet deeply important. Life depends on useful things. A cracked chair. A broken hoe. A damaged basket. Even small problems matter when resources are few. So craftsmen remain busy. Always repairing. Always building. As morning stretches wider, scribes settle into work too. Their lives feel different from farmers. Different from builders. Yet still demanding in quieter ways. A scribe sits cross-legged beside papyrus sheets. Ink nearby. Brushes prepared. His posture straight. Careful. Writing requires concentration. Taxes must be recorded correctly. Trade counted properly. Names remembered. Mistakes can bring trouble. He spends long hours bent forward. Eyes tired. Hands stained dark with ink. Sometimes the work feels endless too. Even calm jobs leave people weary. The sun rises higher. And slowly, the familiar heat returns. At first it feels manageable. Warmth across shoulders. Bright light against skin. But hour by hour, the heat grows heavier. Farmers feel it first. Sweat gathers quickly. Clothing sticks to skin. The earth dries beneath sunlight. Work continues anyway. Hands pressing seeds. Canals repaired. Fields checked carefully. One farmer pauses briefly beside flowing irrigation water. He splashes cool water across face and neck. Only a moment. Then back to work. There is little choice. Crops need care. Families need food. A missed day can matter. Nearby, workers repairing mud brick walls wipe dust from foreheads. Mud dries quickly beneath sunlight. Hands shape bricks carefully. The smell of wet clay mixes with warm earth. Their muscles ache. Backs bend. Yet conversation drifts softly between them. Someone speaks about market prices. Someone mentions a sick relative. Someone wonders whether the Nile flood will be good this year. Life continues even during labor. Words filling spaces between exhaustion. By midday, the sun feels enormous overhead. Bright enough to make eyes narrow. Hot enough to slow movement. Shade becomes valuable. Precious. People gather beneath trees when possible. Simple meals appear again. Bread. Figs. Beans. Onions. Fish when available. Water from clay jars tastes cooler than expected. A small comfort. Children carrying food to workers move carefully along dusty paths. Even they feel the weight of afternoon heat. Many older people stay indoors now. Mud brick walls help keep homes cooler. Inside shaded rooms, grandparents sit quietly while younger adults work outside. One elderly woman repairs worn linen with patient hands. Thread moving slowly. Her fingers practiced from decades of use. Beside her, a child naps through hottest hours. Outside, wind carries dry warmth through village roads. Dust lifts gently. Everything feels slower. Even voices soften. Afternoon in Egypt often feels sleepy. The kind of tiredness that settles into bones. A fisherman rests beneath shade after morning work. Net folded nearby. Eyes half closed. His shoulders ache from rowing. Hands rough from rope. For a little while, he simply listens. Water nearby. Birdsong fading in heat. The quiet hum of distant village life. Rest matters. Even short rest. Especially here. Slowly, sunlight begins changing again. The worst heat eases. People notice immediately. Shoulders straighten. Movement becomes easier. Breathing feels lighter. Farmers return to unfinished work. Craftsmen continue shaping tools. Market stalls grow busier for evening trade. A merchant walks dusty roads leading into the village. Donkey carrying baskets filled with goods. Salt. Dried fish. Oil. Cloth. Perhaps small jewelry for those fortunate enough to afford it. Trading feels important here. Not rushed. But necessary. People gather quietly around stalls. Hands examining pottery. Voices discussing grain. Children standing close to parents. Dust glowing gold beneath lowering sunlight. The marketplace smells alive. Bread baking. Sweat. Animals. Warm earth. Smoke drifting upward. Nothing feels polished. Nothing perfect. Yet somehow full of life. As evening approaches, the Nile becomes beautiful again. The harsh brightness of midday disappears. Water turns gold. Then orange. Then soft blue beneath the lowering sky. Fishermen return slowly. Boats rocking gently against shore. Nets folded. Some days successful. Others less so. Still, home waits. And home means rest. Families gather once more. Cooking fires awaken. Meals prepared carefully from whatever the day has offered. Soup simmering softly. Flatbread warming near flames. Children sitting close, tired from small chores and hot weather. The smell of dinner moves through narrow pathways. Comforting. Familiar. A father washes dust from hands before eating. A mother brushes sand from sleeping child's hair. An older brother quietly teases a younger one over spilled water. Small moments. Simple moments. The kind easily forgotten by history. Yet this is how most people lived. Not inside palaces. Not beside treasure. But here. Inside ordinary evenings. Tired after work. Sharing food. Watching daylight slowly disappear. The sky darkens. Stars begin returning one by one. Lamps glow softly inside homes. Outside, conversations drift through warm evening air. No loud noise. Only gentle voices. Some neighbors sit near doorways. Talking quietly before sleep. Others repair tools beneath fading light. Someone mends sandals. Someone untangles fishing line. Someone simply rests, doing nothing at all. And perhaps that feels best after a long day. Across the village, one by one, homes grow quiet. Mats spread across floors. Children already asleep. Adults speaking softly before silence arrives. Outside, reeds bend gently beside dark water. The Nile continues moving beneath stars. Unhurried. Unchanging. A warm wind drifts softly through the village. Tomorrow waits patiently beyond the horizon. And before anyone fully realizes it, another ancient night settles gently across the river banks of Egypt. The village settles again beneath the night sky. Warm darkness rests softly over rooftops made of mud and straw. Lamps dim one by one until only faint orange light glows through small doorways. Beyond the homes, the fields lie quiet beneath moonlight, stretching gently toward the river like sleeping earth. The Nile moves through it all. Always there. Always nearby. Its waters slip silently through darkness, carrying coolness into the warm night air. Reeds along the banks sway slowly, brushing against one another with soft whispering sounds. Nothing feels rushed here. Not at night. Night belongs to stillness. Night belongs to rest. Inside a modest home near the edge of the village, a mother shifts quietly beside her sleeping children. The room feels warmer now than it did hours earlier. Mud brick walls hold heat from the day, releasing it slowly into the darkness. A clay jar of water rests near the doorway. A woven basket leans beside the hearth, empty now after the evening meal. The youngest child stirs. Half asleep. Half dreaming. The mother gently adjusts a thin blanket before settling once again. Tomorrow will come quickly. It always does. Nearby, her husband sleeps heavily. His hands still rough with dried mud from the fields. Small aches remain in his shoulders even in sleep. Years of lifting, bending, carrying, and digging have slowly shaped his body into something strong but tired. Ancient work leaves its marks quietly. Not suddenly, but little by little. Season after season. The body remembers. Outside, an old fisherman sits awake for a while longer beside the riverbank. Sometimes sleep comes late. Especially with age. He rests on a worn wooden stool, looking out toward dark water that reflects pale moonlight. He has known this river almost his entire life. As a child, he learned where fish gather. As a young man, he learned patience. As an older man, he learned that the Nile changes slowly, yet never truly stays the same. Floods rise. Floods retreat. Fish move. Boats grow old. Children become adults. Time drifts forward as gently as water. He listens to insects humming nearby. The soft splash of something moving in shallow water. A bird shifting somewhere in reeds. Eventually, tiredness arrives. Slowly. Naturally. He rises carefully and walks home beneath stars. The village remains quiet. Only sandals against earth. Only night breathing softly around him. Hours pass. Moonlight fades. Darkness softens. And once again, Egypt begins preparing for morning. Before sunlight arrives, a cool breeze slips through narrow village paths. This hour feels different from the rest of the day. Gentler. Still untouched by heat. A young woman wakes before dawn. Her body feels heavy at first. The kind of tiredness that never fully leaves when each day begins before sunrise. Still, habit guides her forward. She rises quietly. No wasted movement. She ties back her hair and kneels beside a grinding stone. Soon the familiar rhythm begins. Stone against grain. Back and forth. Slow and steady. The sound belongs to morning itself. Across the village, others wake to the same work. Grinding grain for flour. Preparing bread. Sweeping dirt from floors. Fetching water. No grand beginning. No dramatic start. Only routine returning like sunlight. Outside, the eastern sky slowly brightens. Birds begin calling softly near riverbanks. Palm trees stand still against fading darkness. The Nile catches the first hint of gold. A group of boys carrying small baskets hurry sleepily down a path. Not fast, but trying to look more awake than they feel. Today they will help gather reeds near shallow water. The work is simple but tiring. Reeds matter. They become baskets. Rope. Roof coverings. Sometimes mats. Even ordinary plants become useful things here. Nothing is ignored. Nothing wasted. One boy kicks lightly at dust as he walks. Another yawns so deeply he nearly stops moving altogether. Their quiet laughter drifts through cool air. Even mornings carry small moments of lightness. Nearby, fishermen untie boats from wooden posts. Hands move confidently through familiar motions. Nets folded. Oars checked. Ropes tightened. One man pauses briefly before stepping into his boat. He looks toward the brightening sky. Cloudless. Another hot day ahead. He already knows. The river reflects soft morning light like polished metal. Peaceful now. Quiet. Soon sunlight will grow stronger, but for this short while, the Nile feels calm and welcoming. His son climbs into the boat behind him. Still learning. Still young enough to ask questions. The father answers patiently. Teaching takes time. And time feels slower here. Lessons are not hurried. Most knowledge passes quietly from one generation to the next. Hands showing hands. Eyes watching eyes. Mistakes corrected gently. No books needed. Only repetition. Only memory. In another part of the village, a baker begins work before nearly everyone else. Bread matters deeply in Egypt. Without bread, meals feel incomplete. Families depend on it. Workers carry it to fields. Children eat it before chores. The baker kneads dough with practiced hands. Flour dust clings lightly to skin. Nearby, ovens warm slowly. The smell arrives gradually. Warm grain. Smoke. Earthy sweetness. Soon the village paths will fill with it. The smell of another ordinary morning. A small child wakes to that smell. Still wrapped in sleepiness, she sits quietly beside her grandmother. The older woman smiles softly and brushes loose hair from the child's face. Outside, voices drip through morning air. The village slowly stretching awake. The grandmother begins telling a story while waiting for breakfast. Nothing grand. Nothing frightening. Just an old familiar tale heard many times before. About birds near the river. About clever animals. About seasons long ago. The child listens anyway. Familiar stories feel comforting. Especially before the day begins. As sunlight rises higher, farmers once again make their slow journey toward fields. Their sandals stir dust from dry paths. Shoulders carry tools. Voices remain quiet. Some are still waking fully. Others already thinking about water levels, damaged crops, or work left unfinished yesterday. The fields wait. Always waiting. Near the river, irrigation channels glisten softly in early sunlight. Water moves carefully through narrow paths carved by human hands. Without this work, crops cannot survive. So farmers kneel in wet soil. Repairing walls. Clearing blocked canals. Directing water exactly where it needs to go. Mud sticks to skin. The smell of river earth rises warmly into morning air. One older farmer pauses briefly. Stretching his back. Breathing deeply. His body no longer moves as easily as it once did. Still, he continues. Because work continues. A younger man nearby offers quiet help lifting heavier tools. No long speech. No big moment. Just simple kindness hidden inside ordinary labor. These moments happen often. Quietly. Without notice. Nearby, women gather vegetables from garden plots near homes. Onions. Beans. Herbs. Leafy greens. Small harvests carefully collected. Children help where they can. Sometimes eagerly. Sometimes reluctantly. One little boy carries too many vegetables at once and nearly drops them all. His mother smiles despite herself. Morning still feels soft enough for patience. At workshops, craftsmen settle deeper into their work. The potter shapes smooth clay into storage jars. Hands steady. Mind calm. The carpenter sands rough edges from a wooden tool handle. The weaver sits beside a loom, moving thread carefully between practiced fingers. Wood creaks gently. Fabric slowly grows. No hurry. Good work takes time. Outside, merchants prepare donkeys for travel. Goods tied securely. Baskets checked twice. The roads between villages can be long and dusty. Trade means walking beneath heavy sun. Still, merchants know the rhythm well. Step after step. Village to village. News travels with them too. Stories from distant places. River conditions. Crop troubles. Small changes across the land. Even in an ancient world, people remain curious. The morning moves steadily toward midday. And little by little, the heat begins arriving again. At first it settles gently. Warm sunlight across shoulders. Bright fields glowing beneath clear sky. Then stronger. The kind of heat that feels heavier each hour. Workers wipe sweat from brows. Animals gather beneath shade. The ground itself seems to grow warmer beneath sandals. A laborer carrying bricks slows his pace. Not from laziness. Only tiredness. Heat asks patience from everyone. No one escapes it. In larger towns farther along the Nile, scribes continue careful work indoors. Papyrus sheets spread neatly. Records written slowly. Land counted. Supplies measured. Taxes noted. A young apprentice sits nearby, watching closely. Learning symbols. Learning order. Learning patience. Writing is respected work. But still tiring. Long hours. Careful attention. A mind growing heavy by afternoon. Outside, market stalls hum softly beneath shade cloths. Fruit stacked neatly. Fish drying in sunlight. Clay jars lined carefully together. The smell of spices drifts through warm air. People bargain gently. No rush. Everything moving at the slow pace of heat. And somewhere nearby, beneath the shade of a tree, a tired worker closes his eyes just for a few moments. Hands folded loosely. Breathing slow. Resting before the afternoon asks more of him. The Nile moves quietly beside it all. Watching. Listening. Holding the rhythm of life together, one slow day at a time. The afternoon settles gently over the land. Heat lingers above the earth like something almost visible, rising softly from dusty roads and sun-warmed stone. The brightest part of the day has begun to soften, though warmth still clings to everything it touches. In the fields, workers move more slowly now. Not because the work has ended. Only because bodies grow tired. A farmer wipes sweat from his forehead using the edge of his linen cloth. Dirt clings to his hands. Mud dries against his ankles where irrigation water touched him earlier in the morning. He pauses for only a moment. A long breath. A drink from a clay jar. Then back to work. The rhythm of life in ancient Egypt leaves little room for stopping completely. Crops need watching. Canals need repairing. Animals need care. There is always something unfinished waiting nearby. Still, afternoon carries a quieter feeling. The sharp energy of morning has faded. Voices become softer. Movements slower. Even conversations drip gently beneath the weight of heat. Nearby, another farmer kneels beside an irrigation channel, clearing away clumps of earth with patient hands. Water moves carefully through narrow paths. Too much water in one place may damage crops. Too little can leave soil dry and lifeless. Balance matters. Small decisions matter. A careless afternoon may become a difficult harvest later. So workers pay attention. Quietly. Steadily. The Nile gives life, but it asks effort in return. Closer to the village, women sit beneath bits of shade while preparing food for the evening meal. Vegetables rest inside woven baskets. Clay bowls stand nearby. Someone peels onions. Someone crushes herbs with a stone. Someone kneads dough slowly, preparing bread before sunset arrives. Children sit nearby. Some helping. Some pretending to help. One little girl watches carefully as her mother works, small hands trying to copy every motion. Learning begins early here. There are few formal lessons for ordinary children. Most knowledge comes through watching. Repeating. Trying again. A daughter learns bread making. A son learns fishing. An older sibling teaches a younger one how to gather water without spilling too much from a heavy jar. Little by little, life teaches itself forward. Near the riverbank, fishermen return from morning waters. The boats move slowly. Wood creaking softly. Water rippling outward in gentle circles. Some boats return carrying enough fish for market. Others less. Luck changes from day to day. The fishermen step carefully onto shore. Tired. Warm from sunlight. Arms sore from rowing and lifting nets. One man kneels beside his catch, separating fish into baskets. His young son watches nearby. Still curious. Still eager. The boy asks questions. Too many perhaps. Yet the fisherman answers patiently. Because one day the boy will stand here alone. Knowing these same motions. Feeling these same aches. Watching this same river. Nearby, fish are cleaned beside smooth stones near the water. The smell of river mud mixes with salt and warm air. Cats wander carefully, hopeful for scraps. A woman laughs quietly as one stubborn cat refuses to leave her alone. Small moments pass unnoticed by history. Yet perhaps they mattered most. Not kings. Not monuments. But ordinary afternoons. Simple laughter. Shared work. The comfort of familiar faces after long hours. Farther away, in larger workshops, craftsmen continue their labor. A potter carefully lifts newly shaped bowls into sunlight to dry. Rows of clay vessels sit quietly beside one another. Some large enough for grain storage. Some small enough for oils or water. Each shaped by hand. Each carrying hours of work. Nearby, a carpenter smooths rough wood using simple tools worn by years of use. His workshop smells warm. Wood dust floating through sunlight. The sound of scraping rises and falls gently. Nothing hurried. A mistake wastes precious material. So patience matters. Always patience. In another shaded corner, linen workers sit together weaving cloth. Thread moving slowly through fingers. Backs bent. Hands practiced enough to move almost without thought. The work feels repetitive. Sometimes tiring. Yet strangely calming too. The steady rhythm of movement becomes familiar. Thread crossing thread. Wood softly creaking. Quiet voices drifting through warm air. Outside, donkeys stand lazily beneath shade. Tails flicking flies away. Even animals seem tired during afternoon hours. Dogs sleep near walls. Goats rest quietly. Birdsong becomes softer. The world itself seems slower beneath the heat. Inside homes, older family members rest through the hottest hours. An elderly grandfather sits near an open doorway where cooler air drifts through. His knees ache today. More than usual. Age brings small discomforts that stay quietly in the background. He watches grandchildren playing nearby. Not wild games. Nothing loud. Simple games with stones. Small drawings made in dust. Little hands shaping little worlds. The grandfather smiles faintly. Perhaps remembering mornings long ago when he moved faster. Worked harder. Felt younger. Time moves quietly here too. No one notices it happening. Until suddenly, years sit softly upon shoulders. Inside another home, a young mother rocks a sleepy child. The little one feels warm from the afternoon. Heavy-eyed. Quiet. Outside, neighbors speak softly while preparing food. The smell drifts inward. Bread baking again. Lentils cooking. Garlic warming in clay pots. Food in ancient Egypt is simple for most families. Bread remains the center of nearly every meal. Bread and grain. Sometimes fish. Vegetables when available. Dates for sweetness. Figs. Beans. Sometimes meat, though not often for ordinary workers. Yet after hard labor, simple food feels enough. Enough to quiet hunger. Enough to continue tomorrow. As afternoon slowly stretches toward evening, shadows begin growing longer. People notice. The light changes first. Harsh brightness softens into gold. Heat loosens its grip little by little. Workers straighten backs. Breathing feels easier. Energy slowly returns. A farmer standing near the edge of his field watches birds glide low over irrigation water. For a moment, he simply stands still. No work. No rushing. Just quiet watching. Small pauses matter. Even if brief. Especially in difficult lives. At the market, movement begins growing again. Evening trade often feels gentler than midday. People return after work. Baskets in hand. Looking for food. Tools. Cloth. Salt. Oil. The market smells alive. Warm bread. Dust. Smoke. Fish. Spices drifting softly through air. Voices overlap gently. Never loud. Never hurried. Someone bargains over vegetables. Someone trades fish for grain. Someone shares quiet news from another village farther along the Nile. A merchant wipes dust from his sandals after a long day walking between settlements. His donkey looks equally tired. Still, there is satisfaction in arriving somewhere familiar. In selling enough to return home with food. In hearing voices after hours spent alone on dusty roads. The roads of Egypt can feel endless. Long stretches of earth beneath wide sky. Warm wind moving beside travelers. Palm trees appearing now and then. The river always nearby, though sometimes hidden from sight. Travel happens slowly here. Measured in footsteps. Measured in sunlight. Measured in patience. As evening grows closer, cooking fires begin appearing across the village once more. Thin trails of smoke rise into softening sky. The smell arrives before darkness. Comforting. Familiar. Children return home dusty and tired. A little quieter now than they were in morning hours. Parents gather nearby. Hands washed. Faces cooled with water. Tools set aside for the night. Inside one home, dinner begins simply. Bread passed between hands. Fish divided carefully. Vegetables shared. No wasted food. Every bite matters. The family eats sitting close together. A father talks softly about tomorrow's work. Water levels in the canal need checking. The youngest child nearly falls asleep while eating. Everyone smiles quietly. Tiredness settles gently over the room. Outside, the sky becomes something beautiful. Gold fading into amber. Amber fading into soft blue. The Nile catches every color. For a little while, the whole river seems to glow. Boats drift lazily back toward shore. Birds settle into reeds. Palm trees become dark shapes against evening light. Some neighbors sit outside after dinner, talking softly before sleep. Others simply rest, watching the sky, feeling evening air cool against skin. After a day of heat, even a small breeze feels precious. A fisherman repairs a tear in his net. Slow, careful hands. No wasted motion. Tomorrow we'll need these nets again. Tomorrow always comes. Nearby, a woman folds linen cloth while listening to children whisper sleepily nearby. Someone laughs softly. Someone yawns. Someone says very little at all. Words feel unnecessary after long days. Comfort often arrives through quiet company. The stars begin appearing again. One by one. Bright against darkening sky. Lamps glow gently inside homes. The village slowly grows quieter. Animals settle. Conversations fade. Doors close softly. The night returns like an old friend. And once again, the Nile flows patiently through darkness beside the sleeping land, carrying cool air and quiet sounds through another ancient evening. The evening deepens beside the Nile. Darkness settles slowly over the village, soft and familiar. The last colors of sunset have faded now, leaving only starlight above and the quiet glow of small oil lamps inside scattered homes. The heat of the day still lingers in walls made of mud brick. Not unbearable now. Only present. A warmth left behind by the long afternoon sun. Outside, night sounds begin their quiet work. Insects hum near the riverbank. Water brushes gently against reeds. A donkey shifts in sleep somewhere behind a fence. Then stillness returns. The village rests. After long days of labor, sleep comes easily for many people. A fisherman lies stretched across a woven mat, shoulders sore from rowing. His hands still feel rough from rope and damp nets. Beside him, his youngest daughter sleeps deeply, one small arm resting across a folded blanket. The room smells faintly of bread baked earlier. Smoke from the cooking fire still lingers in the air. Clay jars stand quietly in corners. Simple things. Ordinary things. Yet enough. For many families, enough is all life promises. And somehow, enough becomes familiar. Comfort lives inside familiar things. The same evening meal. The same sleeping place. The same sounds drifting through darkness. Outside another home, an elderly woman remains awake a little longer. Sleep has grown lighter with age. She sits near the doorway where cooler night air passes gently through. Her hands move slowly as she repairs worn linen clothing by lamplight. Thread through cloth. Pull. Turn. Thread again. Simple work. Quiet work. Even now, after sunset, many small tasks continue. Clothing tears. Tools break. Baskets weaken. Nothing is easily replaced. So people mend what they have. Carefully. Patiently. Nearby, grandchildren sleep in a quiet row, breathing softly. Tomorrow morning they will wake early. Still sleepy. Still learning. The rhythm of Egypt will carry them forward just as it carried their parents and grandparents before them. Outside the village, fields rest beneath moonlight. The earth cools little by little. Irrigation channels shimmer faintly where water still moves quietly through narrow paths. Crops stand motionless beneath stars. By day, the fields demand effort. Sweat. Patience. Endurance. But at night, they become peaceful. Silent. Almost gentle. A farmer sleeping nearby dreams lightly, though perhaps not deeply. His body remains tired. Years of bending, lifting, digging, and carrying have settled into his muscles. There is no easy work here. Even rest feels earned. Still, sleep offers something kind. A pause. A small quiet between difficult days. Farther down the river, another village rests much the same way. Different families. Different faces. Yet familiar routines. Bread baked earlier. Tools waiting by doors. Fishing boats tied carefully to shore. Children already asleep. Across Egypt, ordinary life moves in patterns repeated thousands of times. Morning. Work. Eat. Evening. Sleep. Again. And again. The river watches it all. Patient as ever. Hours pass quietly. Moonlight slowly crosses rooftops. The stars seem endless overhead. Then, little by little, night begins changing once more. Not suddenly. Only gently. A faint coolness arrives just before dawn. The darkest hour begins softening. The Nile catches the first pale hint of light. Another day quietly approaches. Inside one small house, a baker wakes while stars still remain visible. Bread must come before sunrise. Always. He rises carefully from his mat and stretches stiff shoulders. His body already knows what waits. Flour. Dough. Heat from the oven. Hours standing. Still, there is comfort in routine. He lights a small fire. Slowly, warmth begins growing near the hearth. Soon the smell of smoke drifts into cool air outside. He kneads dough with practiced hands. Push. Fold. Turn. Again. The motions feel almost peaceful. Years of repetition have made them steady. Reliable. Outside, silence still holds the village for a little while longer. Then footsteps begin. Soft at first. A woman carrying water jars. A farmer waking early. Someone sweeping dust from a doorway. Morning returning piece by piece. Near the riverbank, mist hovers gently above water. The Nile looks different at this hour. Quieter somehow. Silver beneath fading stars. A fisherman stands beside his boat watching the surface carefully. No wind yet. Only stillness. He breathes deeply. The air feels cooler than it will later. This small comfort matters. He knows by midday the heat will return. Heavy and familiar. But now, morning feels soft. His son arrives carrying folded nets, still rubbing sleep from tired eyes. The boy yawns. The fisherman smiles quietly. No teasing. No impatience. Everyone wakes slowly before sunrise. Together they push the boat into shallow water. The sound feels gentle. Wood touching water. Small ripples spreading outward. Birds stir nearby among reeds. Some lift suddenly into the air. White wings catching pale morning light. The river begins another day. Back in the village, cooking fires awaken one by one. Thin smoke rises above rooftops. The smell arrives gradually. Fresh bread. Warm grain. Ashes stirring back to life. Families begin gathering for simple breakfasts before work. Bread shared carefully. Dates if available. Water from cool clay jars. Nothing large. Only enough to begin the day. A young boy sits quietly while eating, still half asleep. His father speaks softly about helping in the fields later. The boy nods. Not excited. Not unhappy. Simply accepting. Work belongs to life here. No one questions it much. Children understand early. Everyone helps. Even small hands matter. Nearby, women begin morning chores before sunlight grows stronger. Water fetched. Floors swept. Grain prepared. Laundry washed near riverbanks. One woman balances a heavy jar against her shoulder as she walks carefully down a dusty path. The weight feels familiar. Still difficult. But familiar. Beside her, neighbors speak quietly. News of a cousin's illness. Thoughts about the coming flood season. Small worries. Ordinary concerns. Life continues through these conversations. Share gently between tasks. In the fields, farmers arrive just as sunlight spreads across the horizon. Golden light stretches over wet soil. The air still feels manageable. For now. A younger worker lifts tools eagerly. Still strong. Still early in life. Nearby, an older farmer moves more slowly. Carefully protecting sore knees. Still steady. Still dependable. The younger man offers help without speaking much. A quiet kindness. Common here. People rely on one another more than they often say. Work begins. Mud beneath feet. Water redirected through channels. Seeds checked. Tools lifted. Hands growing dirty before morning fully settles in. The sounds of labor slowly replace silence. Water moving. Wood scraping earth. Quiet voices drifting between rows of crops. Nearby, birds search fields for insects disturbed by footsteps. The day opens wide. At workshops, craftsmen return to familiar spaces. The potter presses hands into cool clay before heat arrives. The weaver adjusts thread on a loom. The carpenter inspects cracked wood waiting for repair. Simple work. Yet important. Without craftsmen, daily life grows harder. Broken stools remain broken. Jars disappear. Tools wear away. So skilled hands matter deeply. The carpenter pauses briefly before beginning. Morning light falls through the doorway. Dust drifting softly in the air. For a moment, everything feels calm. Before labor fully begins. Before tiredness returns. These quiet beginnings feel valuable. A small breath before effort. By now, the village feels fully awake. Children carry baskets. Animals wander carefully through narrow paths. Merchants begin preparing for travel. The smell of baking still lingers in warm air. Voices rise and fall softly between homes. Nothing loud. Nothing hurried. Just life unfolding at its ordinary pace. The Nile remains nearby through it all. Shining brighter now beneath morning sun. Watching fishermen drift farther into deeper water. Watching women gather reeds. Watching workers begin another long day beneath growing heat. Always there. Always moving. And somewhere in the village, unnoticed by nearly everyone, a warm breeze passes quietly through an open doorway where a tired family begins another ordinary morning together. Morning stretches gently across the land. The sunlight grows warmer now, touching rooftops, riverbanks, and narrow village paths with soft gold. Shadows begin to shorten. The coolness of dawn slowly slips away, leaving behind the first signs of another warm Egyptian day. Dust rises beneath sandals. Birds glide above fields. The river catches sunlight in quiet shimmering patterns. Everywhere, ordinary life continues. Near the edge of the village, farmers move steadily through fields damp from irrigation water. Their clothing already clings lightly to skin. The day is still young, but effort has already begun settling into tired muscles. One farmer kneels beside a narrow canal, carefully pressing loose mud back into place. The water must move correctly. Always. Too much in one field can drown tender plants. Too little may leave them weak beneath the growing sun. He watches carefully as water slips through the channel. Satisfied, he moves farther down. There is always another section waiting. Another task unfinished. Nearby, younger workers carry baskets filled with tools and bundles of reeds. Their steps feel lighter. For now. Morning still gives strength. Still offers energy before heat arrives to slow everything. One young boy pauses briefly near the water's edge. A dragonfly hovers nearby, its wings catching sunlight. He watches for only a moment before someone calls him back to work. Small moments disappear quickly during busy days. Yet somehow they remain quietly memorable. The smell of damp earth rises warmly from the fields. Water and soil mixing beneath sunlight. It is a familiar smell here. A smell connected to survival itself. Without fertile earth, families go hungry. Without water, villages struggle. Everything begins with the Nile. Everything returns to it. Along the riverbank, fishermen drift quietly over calm water. Their boats move slowly, guided by practiced hands. No hurried movements. No wasted effort. The river rewards patience more than speed. One fisherman leans carefully over the edge of his boat, adjusting a net that caught on rough wood. Beside him, his son watches closely. The boy's hands are smaller now. Still learning. Still uncertain. Yet every day teaches something. How currents move. How weather changes the water. How silence helps. Fishing is not loud work. The river asks calmness. Even disappointment arrives quietly here. Some days bring enough fish. Some days only a few. Still, tomorrow always comes. So fishermen continue. Steady as the water itself. Back in the village, the smell of fresh bread lingers through narrow paths. Morning meals are finished now, but ovens remain warm. A baker wipes flour from tired hands. Already the heat inside the bakery feels heavy. His morning began before dawn. Hours standing. Hours kneading. Still, bread matters. Everyone depends on it. Soon workers heading toward fields may stop briefly for extra loaves. Families preparing midday meals may arrive carrying baskets. The work never fully pauses. Nearby, women gather beneath bits of shade while sorting vegetables for later meals. Beans. Onions. Herbs. Figs when fortunate enough. Simple foods. Yet familiar. The rhythm of preparing meals becomes part of daily life itself. Hands washing vegetables. Knives moving carefully. Clay pots arranged neatly. Children nearby asking questions. Sometimes helping. Sometimes wandering away distracted by something far more interesting. A little boy chases a chicken through dust before his older sister gently pulls him back. There are chores waiting. Always chores waiting. Still, childhood finds space where it can. Even among work. At the river's edge, women washing clothing kneel beside smooth stones warmed by sunlight. Wet linen slaps softly against rock. Water splashes gently. Voices drip through the morning air. Quiet conversation. Stories from yesterday. Thoughts about family. Questions about neighbors. Life moves through shared words. No one works completely alone. Even difficult tasks feel lighter beside familiar company. One woman laughs softly at something another says. The sound rises briefly above birdsong. Then settles again into the calm rhythm of morning. Nearby, clay jars fill slowly with river water. Heavy when carried. Necessary always. In wealthier homes, servants continue endless quiet work. Sweeping courtyards. Preparing meals. Cleaning dishes. Folding linen. Carrying water again and again. The homes may be larger. Cooler perhaps. Yet labor remains constant. A young servant girl pauses briefly beneath shade. Only for a moment. The morning has already grown warm. Her feet ache slightly from walking stone floors. Still, much remains unfinished. A basket waits. Water needs carrying. Rooms need cleaning. So she rises and continues. There is comfort in routine sometimes. Even when tiring. Knowing what comes next. Knowing where things belong. Knowing the shape of the day. In workshops, skilled hands move carefully through familiar tasks. The potter shapes another water jar. His wheel turns slowly. Clay cool against fingers. The shape rises little by little. Too much pressure ruins it. Too little leaves weakness. Balance matters. His hands know this balance without thought now. Years have taught them. Nearby, the carpenter repairs a cracked stool brought by a neighbor earlier in the week. Wood smells warm beneath sunlight. Tools scrape softly. Dust gathers on the floor. Nothing is wasted here if it can still be repaired. A broken thing still holds value. A cracked basket can be woven again. A torn net can be mended. Old sandals patched. Worn clothing stitched carefully. Life teaches patience because resources remain precious. Across Egypt, this quiet carefulness touches nearly everything. The sun climbs higher. Slowly. Steadily. Morning begins leaning toward midday. And with it, the familiar heaviness arrives. Heat. At first gentle. Then stronger. Workers notice without needing words. Sweat forms more quickly. Movements become slower. Shade begins looking inviting. Farmers pause briefly to drink cool water from clay jars kept near fields. One worker splashes water over his face and closes his eyes for a moment. Just a moment. Enough to continue. The earth feels warmer beneath sandals now. The air heavier. Still, the work goes on. Because work must go on. In larger towns along the Nile, scribes continue careful duties indoors. Papyrus sheets cover low tables. Records wait to be written. Grain measured. Supplies counted. Land disputes noted carefully. Writing requires focus. Attention. Patience. A young apprentice leans forward watching closely. Learning symbols. Learning order. Learning neatness. Mistakes matter. The older scribe corrects gently. No anger. Only repetition. Try again. Write slower. Be careful. Learning happens slowly here too. No rushing. Outside the town walls, merchants continue dusty travel between villages. Donkeys carry baskets loaded with oil, cloth, grain, pottery. The roads stretch long beneath open sky. Dust clings to sandals. Sunlight presses warmly against shoulders. Yet movement continues. Village to village. Trade connecting lives quietly. A merchant wipes sweat from his forehead and pauses beneath a palm tree. Only briefly. The shade feels kind. Nearby, another traveler shares water without speaking much. A simple gesture. Quiet generosity. The kind history rarely remembers. But perhaps happened every day. By midday, Egypt grows quieter. The brightest sun settles overhead. Birdsong softens. Animals seek shelter. Dogs sleep beside walls. Goats stand motionless beneath scraps of shade. Even children grow calmer. Afternoon tiredness beginning early. Inside homes, cooler shadows offer relief. An older woman prepares lentils for the evening meal while younger children rest nearby. The house smells faintly of warm bread and herbs. Outside, someone passes carrying fresh fish wrapped carefully. A small meal for later. Simple food. Enough food. That often feels like blessing enough. In the fields, a farmer straightens slowly, placing one hand against an aching back. The work has already been long. And much remains. He looks briefly toward the river. The Nile glimmers beneath bright sunlight. Always there. Always moving. Reliable in ways life often is not. For a moment, he simply watches. Breathing slowly. Feeling warmth against tired skin. Then he bends again. Returning to the work waiting patiently beneath the sun. The afternoon unfolds slowly across the Nile Valley. The sun hangs high above the land now, bright and patient, warming fields, rooftops, and winding paths between villages. Heat settles gently but firmly over everything. Dusty roads shimmer softly. Palm trees stand still in the warm air. Even the river seems quieter beneath the brightness of midday. For many people, this becomes the slowest part of the day. Not because work ends. Only because bodies begin feeling its weight. In the fields, farmers continue moving through rows of growing crops. Their shadows grow shorter beneath the overhead sun. A man kneels carefully near young plants, brushing dry soil away from roots. His hands move slowly now, conserving energy. The morning felt easier. Morning often does. But midday asks something different. Patience. Endurance. The kind of quiet strength built over many seasons. He rises slowly and stretches his back. A familiar ache settles between his shoulders. Not new. Not surprising. Just part of life. Nearby, another worker lifts water from a canal into smaller channels feeding thirsty soil. The movement repeats again and again. Lift. Pour. Step. Lift again. Simple work. Heavy work. Yet strangely peaceful when repeated long enough. The rhythm itself becomes comforting. A steady pattern beneath the white Egyptian sky. A younger farmer pauses nearby, wiping sweat from his face. The linen cloth around his shoulders feels damp already. He glances toward the river. For a moment, he imagines cooler air. Cool water. Shade. But fields still need tending. And so he continues. Not unhappily. Only steadily. This is life. Work when work calls. Rest when evening allows. Along the Nile itself, fishermen drift more slowly now. The water shines brightly beneath sunlight, making eyes narrow against the glare. Boats rock gently. Nets rest in quiet piles. One fisherman sits still for a moment, letting the river carry him slightly. His morning catch was small. Enough perhaps. Maybe enough for trade. Maybe enough for supper. The uncertainty no longer troubles him much. Years have taught acceptance. Some days the river gives more. Some days less. Still, tomorrow always waits. Nearby, his son leans over the side of the boat, watching tiny fish dart through shallow water. Questions still fill the boy's mind. Why do fish gather here? Why does water move differently near reeds? Why do some mornings feel luckier than others? The fisherman answers quietly. Patiently. Knowledge arrives slowly. Like river water shaping stone. Little by little. Back in the village, shaded spaces become precious. Neighbors gather wherever relief from sunlight can be found. Beneath woven coverings. Under palm trees. Near cool mud brick walls. A woman sits near a doorway preparing vegetables while younger children nap nearby. Their faces still warm from playing earlier. Heavy-eyed now. The afternoon has made everyone quieter. She cuts onions carefully. Crushes herbs. Checks bread cooling beside the hearth. The smells feel familiar. Comforting. Simple food becoming an evening meal. Nearby, another woman repairs worn clothing while speaking softly with a neighbor. Hands stay busy. Always busy. Even conversations happen while working. No one wastes much time. Yet no one rushes either. Life unfolds according to steady rhythms here. Measured in sunlight. Measured in chores. Measured in seasons. At the riverbank, women washing linen continue careful work despite the heat. Cloth dips into water. Hands scrub gently. Fabric strikes smooth stones in slow rhythm. The river offers small relief. Cool against tired hands. A breeze arrives now and then, barely enough to stir loose strands of hair. Still, even small comfort matters. They speak quietly as they work. Family worries. A cousin expecting a child. Someone recovering from illness. News from another village farther upriver. Conversations drift like water itself. Easy. Unhurried. Sometimes laughter rises briefly. Then settles again into calm. Children nearby gather reeds at the water's edge. Their baskets only half full. Work happens slowly in afternoon heat. One boy pauses to splash water against his ankles. Another watches dragonflies hovering above reeds. Someone calls them back gently. There is still enough daylight left for chores. In workshops, craftsmen continue their patient labor. The potter wipes clay-covered hands against worn cloth. Rows of drying vessels sit neatly beside one another. Bowls. Storage jars. Cooking pots. Each waiting quietly. Clay must dry properly. Too quickly and cracks appear. Too slowly and work falls behind. Everything asks patience. The carpenter works more slowly now. Heat makes concentration harder. He pauses beneath shade for water before returning to shape a wooden handle for a farmer's tool. Wood curls softly beneath his knife. Tiny pieces gathering near his feet. The smell of warm wood fills the workshop. Steady work. Careful work. No wasted movement. Nearby, a weaver sits before a loom, moving thread through patient fingers. The soft sound of wood creaking fills the room. Thread crossing thread. Slow repetition. Hours passing almost unnoticed. Sometimes repetitive work quiets the mind. Not exciting. Not dramatic. Just steady enough to feel almost peaceful. In wealthier homes, servants continue preparing for evening. Sweeping courtyards. Cooling water jars. Preparing rooms before families gather later. A servant boy carries heavy baskets across warm stone floors. His arms ache. Still, he walks carefully. No spilled grain. No mistakes. Later, perhaps, there will be food and a little rest. For now, work remains. Outside town walls, merchants still travel dusty roads beneath wide sky. Their donkeys move patiently. Slow and steady. Carrying baskets filled with pottery, grain, cloth, dried fish, oils. The roads stretch quietly beside the Nile. Sometimes empty for long stretches. Only wind. Only footsteps. Only birds overhead. A merchant wipes dust from his forehead and pauses briefly near a cluster of trees. The shade feels cooler than expected. He drinks slowly from a water skin. Not much left. Enough to continue. Travel in Egypt teaches patience too. Everything takes time. Nothing arrives quickly. Villages remain far apart. News travels slowly. The world moves at walking pace. Back in the village, older people rest through the hottest hours. An elderly woman sits near a shaded doorway weaving a basket. Her fingers move carefully despite age. Slowly. Certainly. Nearby, grandchildren sleep on woven mats inside cooler rooms. Their breathing soft. Outside, afternoon stretches lazily onward. The village feels quieter than morning. A sleepy feeling settles over everything. Even animals seem slower. Goats lie beneath shade. Dogs barely lift their heads. Birdsong becomes softer. The world itself seems tired. Yet little by little, almost unnoticed, the sunlight begins to change. The brightest heat loosens. Shadows grow longer. The air shifts gently. People feel it immediately. Farmers straighten aching backs. Fishermen begin turning boats toward shore. Merchants lift baskets again. The hardest part of the day slowly begins letting go. At the market, movement returns. Not hurried. Only steady. People arrive carrying small baskets. Looking for grain. Fresh fish. Vegetables. Oil. The smell of food drifts through warm air. Bread still fresh from ovens. Fish drying nearby. Herbs crushed beneath careful hands. Someone bargains softly. Someone laughs quietly. Someone shares news from farther downriver. Life gathers gently here. No grand events. Only ordinary people crossing paths after long work. Children follow parents through narrow spaces between stalls. Dust glows golden beneath lowering sunlight. The sky softens. Harsh white becoming warm gold. The Nile changes color too. Bright silver becoming amber. Then softer still. A fisherman stepping onto shore feels evening approaching in tired muscles. His hands ache from rope. His back feels heavy. Yet something comforting waits ahead. Food. Family. Rest. Perhaps quiet conversation beside a cooling breeze. Simple things. Enough things. Nearby, smoke begins rising once more from village homes. Cooking fires waking for the evening meal. The smell spreads quickly. Warm bread. Beans. Fish roasting slowly. Garlic. Onions. Familiar smells wrapping around the village like memory itself. The day is beginning to fold inward now. Slowly. Gently. Like sunlight slipping quietly behind the riverbanks. Evening settles softly across the Nile. The long heat of the day begins to loosen at last, drifting slowly away from fields and village roads. Warm air still lingers, but now a gentler breeze moves quietly through reeds near the riverbank. The sky changes color little by little. Bright gold softens into amber. Amber deepens toward rose and pale violet. Everything seems calmer in this light. The harshness of midday feels far away now. For farmers returning from the fields, evening often feels like relief. A slow and quiet relief. One man walks home carrying tools worn smooth through years of use. Dust clings to his sandals. His shoulders feel heavy. There is mud dried against his legs from irrigation channels crossed earlier in the day. His back aches in familiar places. Still, he walks steadily. The work is finished. At least for now. That thought alone feels comforting. Nearby, another farmer walks beside him. They speak only a little. Perhaps too tired for long conversation. A few quiet words about tomorrow. About water levels. About crops needing attention before the week ends. Then silence again. Not uncomfortable silence. Just tired silence. The kind shared between people who understand the shape of each other's days. Ahead, smoke rises from village homes. Thin gray lines curling gently into evening sky. The smell reaches them before they arrive. Bread warming. Vegetables cooking. Fish roasting over fire. Simple meals. Yet after long labor, even simple meals feel deeply comforting. Near the river, fishermen guide boats carefully back toward shore. The water looks softer now. Golden light drifting across gentle waves. One boat moves slowly through reeds, its wooden sides creaking quietly. A fisherman lifts folded nets from the bottom. Not much caught today. Enough perhaps. He has learned not to expect too much. The river teaches patience. Acceptance too. Some days generous. Some days quiet. Still, tomorrow waits. The Nile always waits. His son jumps lightly onto the shore, still carrying the small energy of youth despite the long day. The fisherman smiles faintly. Youth recovers quickly. Older bodies take longer. He lifts the heavier baskets himself. Slowly. Carefully. The evening breeze touches his face. Cooler now. A small kindness after so much sun. Nearby, cats gather hopefully near fish baskets. Quiet and patient. Always watching. One fisherman tosses a small scrap toward them. The animals move quickly for a moment before settling again. Evening brings softer moods. People seem kinder somehow. Perhaps because the hardest work has passed. Perhaps because night feels near. At the riverbank, women finish washing linen before darkness arrives. The water reflects sunset colors now. Cloth hangs draped across smooth rocks to dry. Hands move slower than earlier. Tired now. The day sitting quietly inside muscles. One woman rinses the last piece of fabric and pauses for a moment. She watches birds crossing the sky overhead. Long wings cutting gently through fading light. No rush. Just movement. The world itself seems to slow at this hour. Children gather nearby carrying reeds bundled together. Their small chores nearly finished. One little boy complains softly about tired feet. His older sister laughs quietly. She feels tired too. But evening means home. And home means food. Perhaps stories later. Perhaps simply sleep. For children, tiredness arrives quickly. Back in the village, market stalls begin closing. Merchants gather remaining goods into baskets. Clay jars carefully packed. Vegetables sorted. Fish wrapped. A merchant stretches aching legs after standing most of the day. Dust covers nearly everything he owns. Still, there is satisfaction in finished work. Enough trade to continue tomorrow. Enough grain for supper. Enough. Often, enough feels like success. The marketplace smells warm and familiar. Bread still baking. Smoke rising softly. Spices lingering in evening air. People speak in quieter voices now. The noise of daytime fades naturally. No one hurries much. Darkness comes steadily. There is still time. In one home, a family gathers for the evening meal. The room glows softly from a small oil lamp. Shadows dance gently against mud brick walls. The father washes dust from his hands before sitting. The mother places bread carefully between family members. Vegetables cook slowly in a clay pot. A small portion of fish shared between everyone. Nothing wasted. Food matters too much. The youngest child struggles to stay awake. Eyes growing heavy. Head nodding slightly before lifting again. Someone smiles quietly. The older brother nudges gently. Trying not to laugh too loudly. Tiredness makes small things feel softer. Kinder. Conversation stays simple. The day's work. Plans for tomorrow. A neighbor's donkey wandering into the wrong field again. Nothing important perhaps. Yet these quiet exchanges fill ordinary evenings with warmth. Outside, neighbors sit near doorways after eating. The heat trapped inside home slowly escapes into the cooler night. People welcome the air. An old man rests on a wooden stool, listening more than speaking. His hands folded quietly in his lap. He watches grandchildren chasing one another through soft dust before sleep finally calls them inside. The sounds of the village shift now. Less labor. More quiet voices. Occasional laughter. The clink of clay bowls being washed. A distant dog barking once. Then silence again. Near one doorway, a woman repairs a torn fishing net while her husband sharpens a worn farming tool beside her. Neither speaks much. No need. Comfort lives inside familiar company. The sky deepens overhead. Stars slowly begin appearing. First one. Then another. Then many. Bright and clear above the darkening Nile. Without city lights, the night sky feels endless here. A fisherman walking home pauses briefly to look upward. He has seen these stars all his life. Still, they feel steady. Reliable somehow. Like old companions. The Nile reflects faint pieces of starlight between gentle ripples. The river never truly sleeps. Even now, it moves patiently onward. Past villages. Past sleeping fields. Past quiet homes filled with tired families. The same river watched grandparents. And great-grandparents. And those before them. Generations carried beside its water. Night deepens. One by one, homes grow quieter. Children fall asleep first. Curled beneath thin blankets. Breathing softly. Adults finish small evening tasks. Washing bowls. Repairing tools. Preparing grain for morning. Tomorrow always begins early. Preparation matters. In wealthier households, servants finish their final duties before resting. Courtyards swept. Lamps adjusted. Water jars filled for morning. Even now, work stretches late into evening. Still, eventually, everyone seeks rest. Bodies ask for it. Ached muscles ask for it. The long day gently closes. Near the edge of the village, an elderly woman sits quietly for one last moment beneath the stars. Night air cool against tired skin. Somewhere nearby, reeds rustle beside dark water. She listens. The sound comforts her. The Nile breathing softly through darkness. Always there. Always familiar. Eventually, she rises and steps inside. The lamp burns low. The room already quiet. Outside, stars stretch endlessly above Egypt. The fields rest. The boats rock gently against shore. And slowly, very slowly, another ancient night wraps itself around the sleeping river banks. The night grows quieter still. Across the village, lamps fade one by one until darkness settles gently into every corner. Mud brick homes become soft shapes beneath moonlight. Courtyards rest in silence. The warmth of the day slowly drifts upward into the open sky. Only small sounds remain now. Water touching the riverbank. A breeze moving through reeds. The soft shifting of animals sleeping nearby. Somewhere, a donkey exhales heavily in its sleep. Then stillness returns. The Nile continues onward through darkness. Patient. Unhurried. Its surface catches pale moonlight in silver ribbons that break gently against wooden boats tied near shore. Fishing nets hang drying beside homes, still carrying the faint smell of river water. Tomorrow they will be used again. Tomorrow always comes. Inside one small home, a family sleeps close together on woven mats. The youngest child dreams deeply, one hand curled beneath a cheek still warm from sleep. Nearby, an older brother shifts quietly, tiredness heavy enough to keep him still despite the lingering warmth inside the room. Their parents sleep lightly. The father's hands still rough from the fields. The mother's shoulders sore from carrying water and grinding grain. The work of ancient Egypt rarely leaves the body completely. Even sleep cannot erase it. Still, rest offers kindness. For a few quiet hours, aching muscles soften. Heavy thoughts grow distant. The endless list of tasks waiting tomorrow disappears into darkness. Outside, moonlight rests gently on narrow village paths. During the day these roads fill with footsteps. Farmers carrying tools. Children running errands. Women balancing water jars. Merchants leading donkeys through dust. But now, the paths are empty. Quiet. The village breathes slowly in sleep. Near the edge of the settlement, an elderly fisherman remains awake for a little while longer. He often wakes during the night. Age has changed his sleep. He sits outside beside a worn basket waiting for repair. His hands move slowly in moonlight. Reed crossing reed. Careful fingers still steady despite the years. The basket does not need finishing tonight. But quiet work feels comforting. He pauses now and then to listen. Water nearby. Wind brushing dry grass. A distant owl calling once. He has known these sounds longer than he can remember. The night itself feels familiar. Like an old friend. Eventually, tiredness settles over him too. He places the basket aside and stands carefully. Slowly. His knees complain softly. Still, he smiles faintly. Tomorrow will ask for work again. But not yet. For now, there is sleep. Hours pass gently. The moon crosses the sky. Stars remain bright above the dark valley. Then little by little, something begins to change. The darkness softens. Only slightly at first. The air cools just before dawn. A quiet signal that morning waits nearby. The Nile notices first. A pale silver light touches the water. Reeds stand motionless along the banks. Birds remain still for now. But not for long. Inside the village, the first movements begin again. A baker wakes before nearly everyone else. As always, bread cannot wait for sunrise. He rises carefully from sleep, rubbing tired eyes for only a moment before beginning the familiar work. Ashes stir inside the hearth. Small flames return. Soon warmth spreads through the room. He mixes flour with practiced hands. Push. Fold. Turn. Again. Simple motions repeated countless times. His body remembers even before his thoughts fully wake. Outside, the world remains mostly quiet. The sky still dark blue above. Stars fading slowly. Then somewhere nearby, a rooster calls. One voice in the darkness. Then another. The village begins waking. A woman steps outside carrying empty clay jars. She moves quietly so sleeping children remain undisturbed. The earth feels cool beneath her sandals. This hour remains her favorite part of the day. Before heat. Before heavy work. Before tiredness returns. Only silence. And soft morning air. She walks toward the river where others already gather. Familiar faces. Neighbors moving through familiar routines. No one speaks loudly. Morning feels too gentle for that. Instead, quiet greetings drift between them. Soft smiles. A few words. The river waits patiently. Its surface smooth as polished stone beneath the fading stars. Clay jars dip carefully into cool water. The sound feels peaceful. Water moving against clay. A small splash. Then stillness again. Nearby, another woman washes her face briefly before filling baskets with reeds gathered near shore. Morning work begins early because heat arrives quickly. Everyone knows this. A fisherman unties his boat while darkness still lingers. His son arrives carrying nets, still fighting sleep. The boy yawns deeply. The fisherman laughs softly this time. Quietly. Not unkindly. Morning feels easier when shared. Together they push the boat gently into shallow water. The river accepts them. Ripples spreading outward in silver circles. Birds begin waking nearby. The first calls drift softly over water. Farther inland, farmers slowly emerge from homes. Some stretch sore backs. Others sit briefly before leaving, finishing bread left from yesterday's baking. No large meals. Only enough to begin the day. Bread. Water. Perhaps dates if fortunate. Then tools gathered. Sandals tightened. The slow walk toward fields begins once more. The same road. The same routine. Day after day. Yet routine carries something comforting. Knowing what comes next. Knowing where to go. Knowing what hands must do. One farmer walks beside his younger son today. The boy still learning. Still watching. His steps smaller. Questions still endless. Why must water flow this way? Why repair the canal again? Why work before sunrise? The father answers patiently. Because crops need care. Because heat grows stronger later. Because life asks these things. Simple answers. Simple truths. The fields greet them quietly. Morning light stretches softly across damp soil. Irrigation channels shine faintly beneath sunrise. The earth still cool for now. Work begins gently. Hands touching wet soil. Tools pressing into earth. Water guided carefully where needed. Nearby, birds search for insects stirred by footsteps. The sky grows brighter. Gold slowly replacing blue. Back in the village, children begin waking. Some slowly. Some reluctantly. One little girl rubs tired eyes while her grandmother prepares morning bread nearby. The smell fills the room. warm, comforting. The grandmother tells a quiet story while waiting for the bread to finish. Something familiar. A story heard many times before. Still, the child listens. Familiar stories feel safe. Like familiar mornings. Outside, craftsmen begin opening workshops. The potter touches cool clay before sunlight warms it. The carpenter sorts tools carefully. The weaver adjusts thread with practiced fingers. Another day waiting. Another long stretch of ordinary work. No grand plans. No surprises expected. Only steady effort. Measured in hours. Measured in sunlight. Measured in patience. The village slowly fills with sound again. Footsteps. Voices. Animals stirring awake. The smell of bread drifting through warm air. The Nile shining brighter beneath rising sun. And somewhere, unnoticed except by the quiet morning itself, another ordinary day in ancient Egypt begins gently beside the river. The night has returned once more to the banks of the Nile. The fields are quiet now. The tools have been set aside. Boats rest gently against the shore. Cooking fires have grown soft and low, their warmth fading into still evening air. Above the river, the stars shine quietly across the ancient sky. The same stars watched over farmers walking dusty paths before sunrise. The same stars reflected softly in the water beside fishermen waiting patiently through long mornings. The same stars looked down upon warm bread cooling in humble homes, children drifting into sleep after tired days, and families gathering together beneath the slow rhythm of ordinary life. The Nile continues moving beside them all. Always patient. Always steady. Its waters drift softly through darkness, touching reeds at the riverbank, passing sleeping villages, carrying the quiet memory of countless ordinary days. And perhaps that is where the gentle heart of ancient Egypt truly lived. Not only in temples of stone. Not only in stories of rulers. But here. In warm kitchens before dawn. In hands shaping bread. In tired workers resting after long afternoons beneath the sun. In worn sandals waiting by a doorway. In soft conversations shared after supper while evening air finally cooled the earth. Lives repeated slowly. Day after day. Season after season. Simple routines becoming the shape of an entire world. Now the village grows still. One lamp flickers softly before fading. A child turns gently in sleep. Somewhere nearby, water touches the shore in a slow and peaceful rhythm. The night air feels softer now. Cooler. Kinder. The reeds whisper quietly beside the river. Palm trees stand silent beneath moonlight. And one by one, every small sound settles into stillness. The baker sleeps. The farmer sleeps. The fisherman sleeps. The old storyteller rests beside quiet dreams. Even the village dogs have curled into silence. Only the Nile remains awake. Flowing softly beneath stars. Unhurried. Unending. Carrying the ancient world gently through the dark. And so, beside the quiet riverbanks of Egypt, beneath a sky full of patient stars, the old world rests. The night grows deeper. The water moves softly. And somewhere far away, beyond reeds and sleeping fields, dawn waits quietly for another day that does not yet need to begin. For now, there is only stillness. Only warmth fading gently into cool night air. Only the peaceful sound of the Nile moving through the dark. And slowly, very slowly, the ancient world drifts into silence.